Hi and welcome to this week's Life Lessons video. It's great to be back with you all. This week we're talking all about CCJ. That's comparing, criticizing and being judgmental about yourself and other people. Now, this is something, it's a bad habit that a lot of our clients suffer with. They are constantly comparing themselves with other people or the faceless jury, constantly criticizing themselves, almost so much that they don't even realize they're doing it. It's going on in the background all day long. And what happens is they are left with red light emotions and feelings of believing they're not good enough, feeling not worthy, and generally feeling not great about themselves. Or they are constantly being judgmental about their partners, their family, their friends, their work, their life, and they end up with the red light feelings of dissatisfaction and unhappiness. So in this video, we're going to be talking about this CCJ habit. What causes it, and is there ever a benefit of doing the CCJ? And most importantly, if you want to break this habit once and for all, David and I will be offering some practical tips and advice of how you can do that. Okay, David, so when a client comes to you with this CCJ habit, what are the typical signs and symptoms?
Red light feelings. So they'll come to me and they'll complain about their dissatisfaction, they're unhappy, they never reach their objections, what they're trying to do. So it's all this, it creates this extreme red light feelings that overtakes their life. The first thing that I heard you say time and time again in that introduction, this would be the first thing I would work on. This word habit. Stop using the word habit, because the word habit kind of takes you away from all your responsibility. Oh, it's just my habit, David. I can't help it. Oh, I've said it before. I've realized I've done it. Oh, I don't. No, this is not taking responsibility. And I'm going to say my word. Let's all say it together. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. And people say to me, David, why that I can't stop it. You're doing it. A habit is just a choice set on default. You are choosing to say those things. You are choosing to be critical. You are choosing to compare. You are choosing to be judgmental. The way to stop it is to do the golden thread, which we're going to demonstrate is in a moment, and find out the reasons why you're doing it. Just before you jump in, let me answer one question. So many people say to me, oh, it's easy you saying stop it. How do I stop it? The question is, why are you doing it? If you're digging a hole and you're getting deeper and deeper, at least stop digging. Don't dig any more. Why do you need? Well, I can't help digging. Of course you can help digging. You've got to stop it. Pause. Take a breath. Drop the shoulders, and then we can do the golden thread.
I think, David, though, for many people, and I would include myself in this, often we have this habit, and I do agree with you. We have a choice to do this, to criticize or not criticize, to be judgmental or not be judgmental, to compare or not compare. I know we have a choice.
So why do you do it?
Well, for a lot of people, it's not brought into our conscious awareness. So, for example, I might be going about my everyday business and all of a sudden go on Facebook or go on Instagram and just, general stuff. And then all of a sudden I found myself go down this path of comparing myself with whoever on Instagram, or, it's a kind of a train of thought. And in that moment, we don't have control of that train of thought. And the only legacy of that train of thought, which then comes into our conscious awareness, is the red light feelings and emotions of feeling generally crappy afterwards for doing this comparing, for doing this judging, for doing this kind of self-criticism and running ourselves down. But it's almost like we don't tie the two together, the thought process and the resulting red light emotional feelings that we get because of the CCJ, and we need to tie them together.
Exactly. This is why this work is so important. It's life-changing work, because if you have that thought of, as Alex just said, that mindset, that trail, whatever you want to call it, remember, there is a belief under that. Beliefs create thoughts, thoughts create actions, actions create red light feelings or green light feelings. So if what Alex has just described, if she's describing you, oh, I don't realize I'm doing it. You do realize you're doing it because you're doing it. You've got to say, what is the belief that's driving that thought process? That mindset doesn't float around the room and attach itself to you. That's your thought process. That's your mindset. That's your pattern of thinking. And so that may have come on, and then we go on to the inner child. That may relate right back to childhood, to what you were taught, to what you observed, to your family situations, to what, so many times I hear my clients say, oh, I'm just like my mom. I'm just like my dad. You've got to take responsibility, first of all, for your beliefs. How many times you hear me say it in these videos? So important. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? Because that belief then creates the mindset. Then as you go on, wherever you go on, before you know it, it's familiar, and in a strange way, it's comfortable to go, oh, look at that dress. Oh, look at that hairstyle. Oh, look at this. Oh, look what they're doing. Oh, they're doing more than me. Oh, they're on the holidays. I'm not on my holidays. And before you know it, it's like that snowball effect, rolling down the hill, gathering up more and more snow until the red lights are very intense.
And actually the red lights then become the focus of our attention rather than the thoughts and beliefs.
Exactly.
And we actually ironically start to work harder. We're like, well, I've got to get rid of these red light emotions. And I think the only way to get rid of it is to be better, to keep on comparing, to make sure I'm good enough.
Amen.
And it's a vicious cycle.
Exactly. The carousel of despair. That's what we keep talking about. You've described it perfectly. So you're creating the red lights. You haven't taken responsibility for creating the red lights. Then you start your CCJing. Oh, well, here's one I hear every day. If I was just perfect, if I just did everything right, if I was just a little bit better than other people, then I wouldn't get the red lights. It's wrong. You would get them more because you're setting yourself on the hamster's wheel, or because then you'll get a little bit better at something. Well, I would just look at them. They're better than me. Well, I've got to be better than them. I've got to be better than them. Can't you see what you're doing? And then people say, yes, I know what I'm doing, David, but it's just a habit. No, it's a choice. Stop it. You have to go to the core belief. What is the core belief? And that's where you have to do the work. That's the meditation. That's what the golden thread takes you to, that core belief. What do you believe? Why do you believe it?
And all of this, I think it's worth saying, applies to when you're being judgmental about other people, or you're being judgmental about your partner or your relationship or your work. And basically having a kind of a downer on stuff going on in your life all the time. And this causes this red light feeling of dissatisfaction and unhappiness. And that judgmental, constant judging and being judgmental has the same effect as the self-criticism, as the comparing, and they're rooted in the same beliefs.
Rooted in the same life lesson.
The same lesson. So what do you mean by that, David?
So the same life lesson is when you do CCJ, you're going against one of the most profound Taoist teachings of oneness. So when you do a CCJ on yourself or on anyone else, what you're doing is a hierarchical value. It's like a seesaw. And I've got to be better than them, or they're better than me, or I should be better than I was, or I'm not good enough. And then you start this CCJing, and this is moving away from oneness. And what you're moving towards is separation. You are separating yourself. I often say in these videos, who are you to judge anyone else? Who are you to even judge yourself? When you say a judgmental statement like, I'm not good enough, what part of you believes what part of you is not good enough. When you write that statement down and try and make it make sense, it doesn't even make sense. I'm not good enough. I can't cope. Look at the evidence of your life. Everything that you've accomplished, every difficult situation through your childhood, you've coped. You've always coped. You are a coping machine. What is the matter with you? And when you do this, you create a separation. I'm unlovable. What part of you is unlovable? This is crazy. Is it your nose that's unlovable? Your ears unlovable? Your hair? And who's making that judgment? And so what you're doing is you're creating this hierarchical effect. And the way of energy, as you go one higher, the other one goes lower. As you go lower, the other one goes higher. And then you're on the seesaw, or we call it the pendulum.
Yeah. Because I think, David, I guess we can kid ourselves in thinking, actually, comparing myself, comparing my relationships with other people's relationships, comparing my lifestyle with other people's lifestyle, comparing everything, criticizing, being judgmental. We can kid ourselves and think, actually, we need to do this because how do we know who we are? How do we know that we're good enough? How do we kind of ground ourselves in the world if we've got nothing to compare to? So a lot of people say, well, that's why I need to CCJ, because then I know who I am. Then I know I'm being the best I can be. And also on this seesaw analogy you've said, if we momentarily or for a period of time put ourselves in a position where we think, oh, I have succeeded. I am better than them now. I have got what I wanted to get with my career. We get, I guess, what we call the green light feelings, a kind of like excitement, bliss, joy, satisfaction. But it's a temporary thing. And then we're always, because the seesaw always tips, or we're always looking for the next thing. So it's like a drug and we're never satisfied.
Well, I think that's really well explained, Alex. And I hear this all the time. I compare because I want to see that I need to be, here's something, I'm just remembering what somebody said to me just 2 days ago. Well, basically, David, you don't understand. I'm lazy and I need to look at other people to be driven on. This is madness talk. First of all, why do you believe you're lazy? That in itself is a comparison. Who told you that? Why would you believe who told you that? And then when you look at other people, you know, because you do it, everybody puts on a mask. Everybody does it. So you're not even comparing yourself against the authentic, true, that person. You're comparing yourself against a mask that they put on. You don't know what goes on behind doors. You don't know what's going on in their head. You don't know what they're doing. Comparing yourself is, as Alex says, it's like taking a drug. You need more and more and more. Or the analogy that I use is that analogy of the donkey and the carrot. The carrot is dangling in front of you, and as you move towards it, the carrot goes farther away. So all the time you're on the treadmill, the hamster's wheel, the carousel of despair. You will never be satisfied. You cannot be. Because again, here's another analogy. It's like the high bar. As you get closer to jumping the bar, what do? You say, well, the bar must have been too low. Let me raise it again. Until you can't jump it. And then you say, here's a craziness. Well, there you are. That's evidence I'm not good enough. There you are. That's evidence that they're better than me. No. That's evidence that your thinking, your beliefs are incorrect. They're not harmonious. They're not in oneness. You are making yourself judge and jury. We call it the faceless jury. You are the judge and you are the jury, and you flip from one to the other. This is mind games you're playing instead of coming down into oneness. You are already awesome. What don't you get about that? Look at you. You are amazing. Look at all the things you've been through your life. My goodness, this proves to you what you can do. Why do you want to be slightly better than everyone else? Do you think that's going to stop the red light feelings? No. That creates the red light feelings because you are the creator of your red light feelings. You are not the victim of them. It is time to stop now. Stop and come back to your authentic self. who you really are. Every person is unique. We're like snowflakes. No two people are the same. Comparing yourself to another snowflake is crazy. You've got to stop it.
But David, does this mean if we don't look to other people to compare ourselves or judge ourselves, or if we don't strive to be better either in ourselves or in our lifestyle or in a relationship, does that not mean we're giving up on ourselves?
But why do you use a great word, strive? I would use inspire. You inspire yourself. Why do you need to bring somebody else into that equation?
I guess it's because I don't know whether this is like a get out saying this, but it's almost like society encourages us
to get out.
Well, we're not taught to self-refer. We're taught to refer to other people and to, look in the magazines and see, right, this is what we should be aiming for. We're not taught to kind of sit down and think, well, have I done a good job today? Or am I being my authentic best today? Or am I lovable just as I am? We're not taught to go through that, I guess, Shen, spiritual self-inspired process of self-referral.
But that's why I want to do these videos, because I want to teach you this. Because as Alex said, a magazine, you are going to judge your life and your achievements and how you want to live and your spirituality from a magazine? Come on. From society. You're going to judge yourself from society. Who in society? What society? It's much better. I don't often say much Taoist teachings, but let me give you this one from the Tao Te Ching. It's a wonderful teaching. Do you want to build your life on rock, on solid foundations, on your belief system, what you believe or why do you believe? Or do you want to build your life on the shifting sands of CCJ, looking at other people, comparing yourself, looking for the next person? You're like on this treadmill. This is shifting sand. This is not a foundation to build your life, to build your way forward, to take responsibility. Because let me guarantee you one thing, you will have difficulties. You will have challenging situations. This Wu-Wei River doesn't run straight and everything work out the way you want it to. You've got to be flexible, adaptable. You've got to use all of your skills to be able to deal with those twists and turns that life are going to offer up, because those are the lessons. The lesson we're talking about here is stop comparing, stop being judgmental, stop all of this criticism. Criticism never works. Name me one thing in your life where criticism has really been successful. It might give you a little bit of a hiatus, move on, but it's never successful because it plants a seed. Do you know what this seed is? The seed of doubt. And the seed of doubt, my goodness, you talk about the Japanese knotweed, you can't shift it from your gardens. The seed of doubt is one of the strongest weeds because it lies there dormant. It lies there until something happens, and then the seed of doubt gives you a couple of little flowers. Oh, it might be you. Oh, it could be something wrong with you. And that's the problem with criticism.
And I think, David, that Taoist teaching is really powerful. It's like we have this clear choice. We've got the shifting sands, the carousel of despair choice that we can keep on doing the CCJ, or we can build our life and our understanding about who we are and our value on the solid rock foundation. And it's almost like that seed of doubt which drives us down this road of CCJ, that, to my mind, that was planted in childhood. That is now being driven by our inner child that we talk about on all our videos.
I'd agree with you.
As opposed to the solid rock foundation, the steady state Wu Wei position, being built on being connected to our Shen, our spiritual self, our authentic truth, that we are divine, we are pure, there is nothing wrong with us, there's nothing to doubt about ourselves. We are enough already, there's no need for striving. But yet, many of us, most of our clients follow the inner child route. We're driven, we're led by this little inner child within us, within our psyche. So do you want to talk a little bit more about what's going on here and why this inner child is so powerful?
Well, if you do the golden thread, you remember you start at the red lights and you separate the red lights from the thoughts and beliefs that create it. You ask yourself, why am I creating that red light? What is it that I believe? You go down. We've done several videos on it.
So the red light emotions and feelings.
Yeah, which you could be calling anxiety, panic attacks,
unhappiness, dissatisfaction,
depression, whatever you want to call it. That's why I don't like to use those words, because they can get you confused right at the beginning. I prefer red lights. You are now creating a red light. The next question is, why? Why am I choosing to create the red light? Not, it's just my habit to create them. Why am I choosing to create the red light? Then you do why? And we're going to do some more videos on this and maybe even do a demonstration video on this.
Yeah.
Because people misunderstand. It only normally takes 2 or 3 whys to get down to one of the 3 lies. Here's the 3 lies. I'm not good enough. I can't cope. I'm unlovable, or maybe unworthy. Have you ever said one of those 3 or all of those 3 to yourself? Then you are lying to yourself. That cannot be true. That is what Alex is saying. This is what the mind has taken over, and now you've created a separation. You are being judgmental about yourself, or you are judging other people from that basis of a lie. And then let's just finish off this. And people say to us, and we've had a couple of them, when I get to the golden thread, I'm not good enough. That was what one lady said. What do I do now? I believe I'm not good enough. Then you start the golden thread process once again. Why do you believe you're not good enough? And here's the trick. Do not give me the results of believing you're not good enough. Give me the evidence of why you're not good enough. And as Alex has just explained, this will nearly always go back to childhood. This will nearly always be what a parent or a guardian has said to you, or what you have guessed they are thinking about you.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what is driving you. That's the computer program. That's the driving. And here's where it gets a little bit confusing. I hope I'm making it clear for you. You follow that path, and then guess what? This path becomes very familiar. And in a way, this way of thinking, as Alex said at the top of the show, this mindset, I pick up a magazine, I think this, it becomes so familiar and a little bit comfortable. And then you start to use the magic H word. It's a habit. It's like, no, I'm not taking responsibility. And I go, stop it. And you go, well, how do I stop it? No, why are you doing it? You are doing something. It's an action, a yang action. It's like if I punch myself in the face and you said, stop it. And I said, well, how do I stop it? You'd say, well, why are you doing it? And that's what I'm saying. When you're doing something, you've taken responsibility, you can find out the reason. Alex was absolutely right. In a number of cases, it goes right back to the childhood. It goes right back to a childhood experience, trying to please your parents, trying to get their love, trying to get their approval, trying to get their validation. And when you don't get it, what do you say? It must be me.
Yeah.
And that's where it goes.
And I must try harder. I must keep on this carousel. I must keep on doing the CCJ, or how am I ever going to be good enough? And so the circle is complete.
So I've got to, here's something else. Here's what I heard just from a client, a lovely client. We got down to the CCJ, and this is what she said. You're absolutely right, David. Here's the belief. I've thought about it, and she came back the next session. Here's the belief. If I'm really hard on myself, if I'm really tough on myself, criticize, judge, compare myself, if I put myself right in the gutter, do you know what the benefit is? And I said, no. If somebody else does it, it's not so bad. And that's how the mind works. And that's what you've got to uncover, because you cannot change what you don't understand. First of all, you have to understand the belief, the pattern of thinking. Then, as you say, it stops being a habit.
Yeah.
It becomes a choice.
And so this, I guess with that example you're using with that lady, criticising herself first before other people can get in, or to hopefully stop other people criticising her by criticising herself and working hard to be better and better and better. She is avoiding, it's like the inner child is avoiding being criticised by other people, because the inner child is holding on to this lie from childhood that I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable, I can't cope. And we work really hard with the CCJ to kind of try and hide that, what we believe is a truth, but actually it's not the truth. And so it's all, the CCJ is almost like an avoidance strategy.
Yes.
It's like a survival strategy.
Yes.
Because the inner child, from childhood, we have the experience which we've talked about on so many of our videos, and I will put a link to our inner child videos in the video description below. But we have an experience in childhood, a painful, upsetting, unfamiliar experience in childhood, which we don't understand. Nobody's there to explain what's going on to us. We have the tsunami of uncomfortable and painful red light emotions, and we blame ourselves. We blame ourselves. I am feeling this horrible sensation now because it must be me. And I must be because I'm not good enough. It must be because I'm unlovable. It must be because I can't cope. And now I'm going to spend the rest of my life comparing, criticizing, being judgmental in order to make sure I'm future-proofing myself on my life, because I never want to experience these terrible red light emotions again. But the paradox is, by doing the CCJ, we are constantly re-experiencing the red light emotions, and we need to speak to our inner child, get down to those lies through using the golden thread process that David demonstrates, to teach the inner child that the lies are not the truth. You are good enough, you can cope, you are lovable. Because if you don't do that inner child work that we talk about on so many of our videos, then this CCJ habit will just continue and continue and continue.
And that's well explained, thank you. Because why this is very important, because what, as Alex has tried to explain and what we're trying to play, one of the main tactics is confusion. Because it is a confusing situation. Because here's what I see. My clients will treat themselves far worse than they were ever treated as a child. They are unmerciful. They will beat themselves up intellectually, mentally. This little voice, nang, 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 is going on all of the time. And even with that going on, that inner voice, that inner child, that inner critic, whatever you want to call it, they are still making successes of their lives. And then they turn around to me and say that they can't cope. Imagine if we took that away. Imagine if you never heard that critical little inner chatter from today. How would your life be? What would change? And the thing is, that little voice is yours. It's no one else's. It's not your parents from 40 years ago. It's not what they said. It's not because if they even said to you, you are a terrible child, you are stupid. What makes you think that they're correct? Do you believe every single thing your parents have ever said to you? Of course you didn't.
But we don't.
Why are you choosing to believe that?
But David, often we don't as adults take that pause now and reflect back and think, not everything my parents or my carers or those around me when I was growing up did is sacrosanct, is the absolute truth. So many of us have watched parents, carers, people around us who we looked up to either do the CCJ habit themselves, either on themselves, talk badly about themselves, or be critical and judgmental about us as we were children. And now that kind of parcel has been passed to us, and we've never stopped, paused for a moment and said, well, Is this the truth? Is this reality? Is this how I want to live my life?
I was doing a video call with a lady just a couple of days, and she was very strong on this. Her mother said this. Her mother was very critical of her. And I said to her, well, the way you're describing your mother, she must have been an amazing person and having a highly successful life. And she rolled her eyes and she said, you are joking. She was a complete disaster. And I said, well, why are you taking her teachings that you could see she was a complete disaster and mimicking them for your own life? Does this make sense to you? You have to be responsible. You have to be self-responsible for what you are believing, what you are thinking, your actions. You are not perfect. It is okay to get things wrong. We learn by getting things wrong. If you don't get anything wrong, you're not trying hard enough. You've got to get things wrong, learn the life lesson, and then you won't get it wrong again. The life lesson here is, think about this idea of separation. Understand we are unique, but we are of a oneness. Build your life on this solid rock. Don't build your castle on shifting sand, because what happens? It will shift. Here's the problem with comparing. You listen to someone else, they'll tell you, oh, they don't like your hair color, or they don't like this, or that. You listen to somebody else and they'll tell you something else. Which one are you going to believe? If I spoke to 10, let me tell you this, if I spoke to 10 of your best friends, independently of you being there, and I said to each one, could you explain to me what you are like? I would get 10 different answers. Which one of those are you? You're not one of them. That's just their impression. That's their interpretation. It doesn't describe you. You have got to describe you. You have got to be inspired for you. You have got to look in that mirror and be proud of you. You've got to live your life by your belief systems, by what you believe and why you believe it.
And a lot of people, David, would say, well, you know what? I actually value and put more credence on other people's opinions of me than I put on my own opinion of myself. And that, again, comes back to one of the lies. I'm not good enough. I'm not able to judge my own self-worth. I need other people to judge it for me.
But why do you think they're capable?
Well, this we never question it. We never sit down and think, well, these people are, on their own journey. That's different to mine. It's this habitual thing. So in order to break it, David, I want to take a step back. You talked about the golden thread process and working down through from the red light emotional feelings right down to the core beliefs and the lies that were created in childhood. So to use the example of if I'm being judgmental about my life and my self-worth and my status, and I'm comparing myself with my peers, and I'm criticizing myself and being judgmental. For a lot of people, that goes on in the background all the time, and they don't kind of categorically think, oh, I've just thought this negative thing about myself, or I've just compared myself, or I've just been judgmental about myself, and now I feel crappy, and now I feel red light emotions. They just end up with the red light emotions. So what we're saying is, when you get the red light emotions, when you experience the red light emotions, ask yourself, just stop, pause, don't scrabble to work harder on the CCJ. Think, what am I thinking or believing right now or 5 minutes ago that has created these red light emotions? So what was I thinking about myself? What was I being judgmental about? What was I being critical about? Because often that's what's happening with the CCJ. It's just happening like a blink of an eye, and we don't register those thoughts. So once we identify the thoughts about what we are thinking, judging, criticizing, comparing, we then need to dig a bit deeper with the golden thread process and basically say to ourselves, why am I choosing to believe that? What's going on here? What's the evidence?
What's the evidence? Not the result of thinking that, not what happens when I think that. where did that first come from? Where was the first seed, the spark, that I believe that I'm not good enough? Why did I believe that? Why has that belief got value for me? And as Alex said previously, it's normally got value for you because it came from a person or a situation that as a child you valued.
Yeah.
And so when they said or raise their eye or tutted or say, oh dear, you're hopeless, you then believe them that that's the truth. And that was a starting point. I often say in these videos, I've never seen it in real life, but have you seen the videos where you knock one domino and all the dominoes go out? We've got to get to that first domino, that first thought, the core belief. Is that built on rock or is that built on shifting sand? I would tell you it's built on shifting sand because you're taking their judgment of you to be authority and truthful. Can you do that? Can you honestly look at me and tell me that everything your mother, father, carer, grandfather, teacher said to you is the truth and you should build your life on it? Is that what you're saying? Because a lot of my clients, when we do the work, a couple of sessions and we get down to these bare facts, and it is hard work to clear away all the rubbish that we've tried to show you today, to get down to the fundamental scaffolding, the foundation of why you believe it. It will be because, well, my teacher told me I'd never make nothing of myself. My mum said, my dad said, my grandfather said, I was bullied at school, and so therefore they were right. Were they? Can you build your life on what they said? That's shifting sand, because they are just a human being like you, gone through exactly the same problems as you, dealing with it in a different way. They are not perfect. They are not the source of all knowledge. They are not the rock that you should build your life on. You are the rock that you should build your life on, because you are amazing. You are awesome. You never doubt yourself. And again, that doesn't mean to say you're perfect or you get everything right. But hopefully, if we can help you, it means that you will learn from your mistakes and you will stop repeating the same mistakes because they're familiar or because it's a mindset or because it's a habit. Stop all that nonsense and take responsibility.
And so when we catch ourselves with the red light emotions, or we catch ourselves doing the comparing, thinking, being judgmental, being critical, we would say, just stop it. Stop there and then. Don't stop digging the hole. Put the spade to one side and let's have a look about what I'm thinking here, what I'm believing here. And that questioning, golden thread questioning process that we talk about on several other videos, and I will put a link above to our golden thread process video catalogue so you can have a look at those videos. But that questioning process to get down from the thoughts to the beliefs and then the core beliefs that we've held from childhood, that may take us few rounds of questioning because we're talking about something which is happening immediately today and then getting down to something that happened in childhood. So be patient, sit with it, as we say. Maybe go sit in a quiet meditation with yourself, write it down, go back to the same question the next day and dig down deeper to find the origin, question the evidence behind that core belief. I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable, I can't cope. That core belief which is actually driving your CCJ today.
And what the golden thread is doing is in a way, it's a very powerful process. And once you get it, it's quite easy, but you're clearing the confusion because it's the confusion that gets you all kind of, you don't know whether you're coming or going. And so when you get down to the core belief, you will see what you believe. This is what I believe, David. Why do you believe it? Because my mum told me. Because my dad told me. Okay, so is that the authority? Is everything your mum told you, do you believe? Do you follow every single thing your mum tells you? The answer is, of course, well, no, I don't. Great. Why do you choose to follow that one and not follow that one? You see, now we're getting right down to the core of these choices. As Alex said, the inner child said. The inner child made that choice many years ago, and that's the choice that started this process, and that's what we have to deconstruct, because that construction is very powerful. And that's when you do it without thinking. This is the time now where you do take responsibility for thinking. Thinking is a good thing. Thinking, taking responsibility, bringing in your conscious mind, understanding why you're doing these things will change your life dramatically, very quickly. This doesn't take years. This is a spiritual teaching to go down to that spirituality, to remember we are one. We are connected. You have this inner Shen magical spirit inside of you that I want you to reconnect to. How could you not be good enough? Why is someone Shen better than yours? It's nonsense. And this is the core teaching.
And I think, David, when we find that lie that the inner child is holding on to, we then, as the mature adults, we need to do that inner child reparenting work that we talk about in all our videos and teach the inner child the truth, because those lies that the child is holding on to, that is driving your CCJ habit today, it's not the truth. So you need to sit with your child and get the child to look at the evidence, explain to the child that the evidence it's using is false evidence.
Absolutely.
And do that inner child reparenting work, which we've talked about on lots more videos, and I will put links to those videos below. Now, David, I can see how not being self-critical is kind of obviously not a good thing, and not comparing yourself with other people is a good thing to do, just to steer clear of that. But in terms of being judgmental, a lot of people get very confused between when we say stop being judgmental, because they're like, well, does that mean I can't have an opinion on anything? Does that mean I can't make a decision about anything? Does that mean I have to allow people to treat me whatever way they want to and not do anything about it? I can't be judgmental. So there's a big difference, as you teach, between being judgmental, which we discourage, and making authentic judgments.
Yes. So I think this is an interesting kind of topic to speak about. For me, this is my interpretation. For me, being judgmental, you are judging the person. You are saying they are a bad person, they are whatever, they're doing this, they're evil,
So you're judging the whole person with a sweeping statement about them.
Making judgments is you taking responsibility for your life. I disagree with what you've just said. I do not follow what you just said. Because if I disagree with what you say, if I word it correctly, I'm not saying you are stupid. Mm-hmm. I'm saying I disagree with what you've just said. Yeah,
or I'm not prepared to put up with that action you did, or that to me that's my kind of boundaries have been crossed here, or and it's about the action of the person, not who they are as a whole individual.
Absolutely, it's not being in the position of being judgmental on the person, mm-hmm. because we all make mistakes.
Yeah,
we're all learning, and not saying that person is an evil person, but saying I do not go along or want to follow or believe or whatever you want to call it. I am making a judgment on what you said. I am making a judgment on what you want me to do. I am making a judgment that this situation is not right for me. Mm-hmm. And so you're making a judgment rather than being judgmental on the person. And that to me is the separation. If you are judgmental, when you say about yourself, oh, I can't cope, I'm not good enough, you may not be able to cope with, I don't know, brain surgery, but it doesn't mean to say you can't cope in general. Mm-hmm. Just means to say, I'm no good at spelling. Doesn't mean to say you can't write. It just means to say you're making a judgment on that one thing. And so for me, being judgmental is this global statement about the person, about the whole thing. Making judgments is being a lot more dynamic, being appropriate, being more particular on that specific interest. So you could say, I agree with most things you said, David. I disagree with this. And but you could write and say, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I agreed with 90%, but I didn't agree with 10%. I would much prefer to say I agreed with 90%, I didn't agree with this bit. And then tell me what you disagreed with and why you disagreed with it. That's the key. I disagree with it because of this. And then we can have a correct discussion. I can hear your reasonings, you can hear my reasonings, and we can talk it through. And this doesn't become personal. This is just about the issue, and that's what we want to focus on.
And making authentic judgments is
vital.
Is about taking self-responsibility. It's not, we're not saying be passive. Don't make judgments about everything. Just let life happen to you. We're saying take control of your life. Take control of the things you can control. Compassionately self-discipline your thoughts and your beliefs, so you are in your wu-wei flow. So our Shen spiritual nature would proactively want you to make judgments, authentic, sound, wu-wei balanced judgments as you navigate your life journey. That's, changing and shifting and transforming as things come and go in our life. We have to make judgments to navigate our own course. But our Shen would not be judgmental. Our inner child is judgmental.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why you started the Facebook community. We got over 3,000 members, so people can say, I disagree with that. Or did you hear what Alex said or David said? And I agreed with this bit, I disagreed with that bit. And then all we have to say is, great, we'll have a discussion on that. Give me why you disagree. And then I can tell you, or Alex can say, this is what we believe. Then we can have a proper discussion. It's not personal. Yeah. It's nothing to do with personal. It's to do with what we believe and what you believe. That's why I believe you should challenge everything. Challenge what we're saying. Don't just sit there and go, well, that must be right. If you don't think it's right, then learn the technique of sitting there saying, I do not believe what I just heard is correct. Now, why don't I believe it's correct? What do I think he's got wrong? And then you can write it down. This is where I think you've misunderstood, David. And then you can, perhaps we have misunderstood, and we'll say, thank you. Yes, we did not speak that. We're live. We're just talking live. Or we did not explain that correctly. Or thank you. That's really helped us. And that is much better, making those judgments, than being judgmental about the person.
And I think it is the inner child that wants to make things personal, that wants to take things to the extreme, that doesn't want to sit and think logically and authentically and truthfully about stuff. So it's getting back into that habit of connecting to our Shen. And again, we've done lots of videos on Shen, which I'll put in the video description below. So finally, David, just to wrap up, I think what we've explained is the mind, the ego, the inner child may convince you that there is some sort of payoff to the CCJ. It will somehow help you get better, improve, strive, succeed, but there is no payoff. Forcing a life of CCJ just gives us this separation.
Yes.
This gives us this separation.
That really is the life lesson. When you're CCJing, you have to be practicing a separation. You either think you're superior or you want to be superior, or you think you're inferior and you want to be inferior. And this is the seesaw effect. And this then takes you on the pendulum we talk about, the emotional pendulum. This is where you will be living in red lights. You are making that choice to live in red lights because you've created an energetic separation. And this is why Wu-Wei wisdom is a spiritual teaching, because the life lesson is there can only be oneness. No one is superior. No one is inferior. Some people know about subjects that I don't know about. That does not make them superior to me. Just means on that subject, they know about it and I don't, and I'm happy to learn. And so you have to be looking for this spirituality of oneness. And there's a life lesson on CCJ.
And I'm believing that truth, not rejecting that truth, will give you amazing green light feelings.
Absolutely, because you
of
then
contentment,
Absolutely.
Inspiration, connected to Shen, satisfaction, excitement, joy. All the green light feelings we're talking about will come into your life once you truly and honestly believe that this teaching of oneness, that we're all one, that there is no separation, that the inner child striving with the CCJ is not the path to follow.
No.
Not the path to follow. So I really hope that this video has given you lots and lots to think about. David works one-to-one with clients every week on these CCJ issues. And if you'd like to learn more about David's one-to-one video call sessions, I will put a link in the video description below. If you'd enjoyed this video, please do share it with someone else who you think would benefit. We produce new videos every week, so if you haven't already, please do subscribe to our channel and click the bell notifications button so you get a little email notification every time we produce a new video. We look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.